I've been through it all.
Yeah, and it was dope. But I feel like a lot of times, like the story behind For the Underdogs is, I feel like there's times where there's gatekeeping.
Oh, totally.
You know, and I'm like, why? Especially from a former athlete standpoint, when you're transitioning out of the game,
Yeah.
you feel like there's people that have information for you, but they don't want to give it to you unless you pay them.
Oh, yeah.
For it.
Oh, yeah.
Which I understand. You worked hard for your energy or your information,
Sure.
but also like, if you got it, why not help someone else get it?
Share it. There's enough business out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here. I'm gonna intro you. Actually, this is Hillary Seiler. I got a chance to meet Hillary out here in Arizona, and then we obviously, like I just said, had breakfast in Miami. Hillary's a financial expert, super dope person. I at the breakfast that we had, we just got to chopping up about the podcast and then what she does, and she's on a world tour right now, talking to all these NFL teams, all these athletes about financial literacy, and I just felt like, obviously, I'm grateful that you're able to stop by given your busy schedule, but I feel like you were perfect to have on the podcast, just given what your story is. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
For the underdogs, man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you're an underdog, yeah?
A little bit, yeah. Most of my life, yeah.
I would consider you an underdog just based off of your story that you told us and how you kind of, clawed your way out of the tough situation you were in. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say I wasn't an underdog as a kid.
Yeah.
My parents took very good care of my brother and I. We were middle class. We were by no means wealthy.
Yeah.
But life decided to kick me in the butt real hard when I was 19. And as we kind of talked about at PAC, which is one of our favorite places to be.
Shout out to PAC.
Shout out to PAC. I shared my story about being 19 and having my mom go into an intensive care unit at a hospital in Portland, Oregon, and we didn't know what was wrong with her. And she spent 31 days there.
Yeah.
And again, doctors couldn't tell us what was wrong. It was just this back and forth. And after we got the first set of medical bills, I realized that life was not an easy thing. And that first set of medical bills really set my family back, and it changed the trajectory of my college education.
Yeah.
And then it changed how I viewed money and life. It went from being really easy to being really hard just overnight.
Yeah.
And I then had to figure out life at 19 very quickly and dig my way out of student loan debt. And just, I literally had no money. I had $22 a month in food stamps.
Wow.
That's how much money I had for food in college because I didn't work enough to government standards to get enough food stamp money. But my dad and I didn't have enough money. I had to pay all of my bills and my dad was paying medical, and we had a house and a mortgage and all those things. And so I had $22 a month to my name. And there were 2 football players that they saved my life.
Yeah.
I will say they really did. And they figured out what was going on. They knew about what was going on with my mom. Played for Oregon State University where I went. Go Beavs. Got to shout out my Beavs.
Yeah, for sure.
Long time ago. It's been 20 years.
Wow.
It's scary to say that. I've been out of college for 20 years.
It's all right.
Or I guess I've been out for 16, but it's been 20. And these 2 guys just, I love them to pieces. We became really good friends. They knew what was going on with my mom, and they knew I wasn't eating because I was 1 meal a day. And they filled up my fridge for 3 years.
That's love.
Oh my God, on scholarship money. And I did everything I could to help them. And so when they both went into the league, I was the first call. How do we buy a car? How do we get a credit card? And I knew all those things because I'd been doing it, right?
Yeah.
My dad's really financially savvy, which is why we didn't completely lose everything when my mom got sick. But yeah, those 2 guys saved me.
Shout out to those 2 guys, because I feel like one of the dopest things you can do and one of the most like loving things you can do is like put someone in position to like win or put someone in position to maybe feed their family, whatever the case may be. Like
without expectation of getting anything in return.
Yeah.
They never wanted anything from me.
Yeah, that's real.
They were just my family. They were my brothers. And how do you even repay that?
Nah, you can't.
You can't.
Besides being a loyal friend and a good person to them,
Seriously.
which I'm sure you are. What's interesting is like when you go through something like that, something as traumatic as you went through, it changes the way that your mind views obviously money.
Yeah.
And you can almost, which I'm sure you've experienced and I would love for you to talk about, but you almost go into that lack mindset.
Scarcity.
Yeah, the scarcity mindset of like you'll never have enough or you'll never get enough to be where you were.
Yeah.
What was that kind of internal battle like for you of, you know, where you were, but you were going through this thing at this point in time, and to not get stuck in that moment? What was that like?
You know, when I was going through it, I don't think I realized I was going through it because there were so many external factors on me at
Mm,
that point that all I cared about was how do I make the next bill pay? How do I
yeah,
make the next rent payment? And so my mindset was so focused on that in that immediate moment
yeah,
that I wasn't really thinking about the big picture. And it wasn't until I left college that scarcity mindset really set in because in college, you're just grinding. You're
mm-hmm,
grinding it out. And it was routine for me. So everything was, I know where I need to be. I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm taking 22 credits. I negotiated my degree with some of my professors because I
yeah,
couldn't go to class. I'm like, what do I need to do to get
yeah.
a C in your class?
You're a master negotiator, huh?
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can
I
see
have a
that.
certificate in it.
Okay.
And I didn't, but here's the thing. This is crazy.
Yeah,
In college, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I
yeah,
just knew, I was like, I can't work 40 hours a week
yeah.
and be in class 22 hours and be here and pay my bills. So I went to all of my professors in the finance department and I said, here's what's going on with my mom.
Yeah.
We don't know if she's going to make it. I have to go home on weekends. I work 40 hours a week. What do I have to do to get a C in your class?
Mm,
And all but one helped me. All but
mm,
one. There was one guy that just wouldn't.
yeah.
My 504 finance
Yeah.
professor just wouldn't let it slide.
Yeah, and it's crazy that it was your finance professor.
It was. And I was glad I was in his class. I learned a
Yeah,
lot. But
yeah.
I knew that if I read the textbook and I took my friend's notes and read over them, that I could get a C.
Mm,
And at that point, like I was saying, it was just get done. There was no, I'm going to be this
you
person in the
couldn't even
future.
see that far.
No, I couldn't see past the next week making sure that my rent was paid.
Mm,
I couldn't see past the next hospital bill that was going to roll into my mailbox at my parents' house. I couldn't see the next car payment being made. I was
mm,
so concerned at that age that, and my little brother was in school with me.
yeah.
I did not want him to struggle.
Right.
So I was always just making sure he's good. I didn't want that stress on him.
Mm,
And so my dad and I had a really great relationship when my mom got sick. We really didn't have one up until then. Like he was my dad. I'd call him when I need something.
yeah, yeah.
And when my mom got sick, he became my best friend.
Mm,
So he taught me a lot about how to handle that stress. But I will say that scarcity mindset, it really didn't hit me till I got out of college and I realized how much people don't make for a living.
yeah,
And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this?
yeah.
And I made $29,000 a year in 2009 working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car 50
Wow.
hours a week.
Wow. Wow.
And I did that for 9 months and said, this is not for me.
That's not for you.
No. And I went and got a job at a bank and
Yeah.
that changed the trajectory of my life.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You talk about your dad being the financial savvy one.
Oh yeah.
I feel like within, just everyday life, the normal world, like typically when you think of finances, the role of the male within the household is to handle the finances
Mhm.
in most situations.
Most.
Just typical.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it is, but majority of the time that's what we hear.
The societal standards have set that.
100%.
Yeah.
So being a woman in the space of finance, what is that like for you to, I mean, your stuff.
Thank you.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When it comes to numbers, like you said, you have this negotiating skill that is almost it shows
Crazy to
up. It
watch.
shows up in everything that you do.
Yeah.
So what is that like being a woman in the space of finance?
Yeah, I've got to shout out my mom on this one because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize she was a business owner. She actually ran 3 of her own businesses
Mm,
and she was a finance head, just like my dad. They actually met in finance class at Oregon State University.
mm-hmm.
And so she was my inspiration because she never said you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
There was nothing that my mom didn't do that if she said she was going to do it, she did it. And I went, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it. My dad was that steady rock, that one
Mm.
that was always there. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew his stuff. And my mom was always experimenting with different ways of doing things. And she was starting businesses and selling businesses. And she was just this brilliant entrepreneur.
Mm.
So when I got into finance, my first thought was, I don't want to be a financial advisor. Not because they're not great.
Yeah.
My brother's a financial advisor.
Okay.
But I knew I knew that wasn't where my passion was.
Yeah.
And looking at finance, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, are you going to be a financial coach for 13 NFL teams, NBA teams, NCAA? I'd have looked at you and said, there's no way.
Why though?
Because I never thought to go down that road.
When I'm thinking of your parents and what their background was, it's almost like it was meant for you to be in the space that you're in.
Well, I was making so much money in mortgage at that point. I was like, oh, I'll just do this and retire at 45.
Yeah, true.
And so I was like, oh, I'm really good at mortgage negotiation.
Yeah,
sales.
100%.
So,
that's real.
I didn't think too much on it. And then I got involved in Project Clean Slate Portland, Oregon, which was taking people that had been convicted, had done their time, and they were coming back and being reacclimated into society after being institutionalized, which if you've ever worked with anyone that's been institutionalized, it's a different mindset.
For sure.
It's overwhelming to have more than 2 options of things to do. You can almost shut down and get paralysis because it's overwhelming. There's too much because every day you've been told to do certain things.
Yeah.
So my job with Project Clean Slate was to introduce them to finance in a way that was easy, manageable, and that they could implement daily.
Okay.
Did that for a couple of years, and I was like, I could do this for real.
Yeah.
And then I started doing some nonprofit work, which I loved. And out of the blue, got a call from Caleb Thornhill.
Shout out to Caleb, man.
KT.
Shout out to Caleb. That's my guy.
I mean, this guy is like the starter of most people's career.
He's ridiculous.
This is the super connector of super connectors.
Yeah, he is.
But the thing is it comes from such a good place.
100%.
He is the most genuine person I've ever met. And one funny part, I never met him on Zoom before I went down and met him in person. So he calls me, he says, I'll never forget. I laughed so hard when I finally met him because we got on the phone. We were talking about what he was doing with Athlete Transition University, which is now PAC.
Yeah.
It has migrated. And we did our first cohort with 2 guys out of the Miami Dolphins retired class.
Okay.
Koamisi and OG.
Okay.
Love them.
Yeah.
And we had like 6 of us in the room. Robbie was with us, who's also one of our founding members of PAC now. Yeah. And we're all in this room and we're working on helping these 2 guys transition. And I went down to Fort Lauderdale. Mind you, never been to Florida before.
Yeah.
Oregon girl.
Yeah.
Country girl off a big old farm.
Completely other coast.
I walked off the airplane. I walked out the doors. I turned right back around. I called Caleb. I was like, I can't do this shit. It's 100 degrees.
Yeah,
He's laughing.
Sure.
He's like, get here. But we hadn't met. We had never seen each other face to face. I thought Caleb was a 50-year-old dude.
Yeah.
He's my age.
Yeah.
And he walks in, he goes, you're Hillary? And I was like, yeah. He goes, that's not what I anticipated. Like, neither of us really knew what we were getting into, but we also didn't realize we were the same age. And so when we got together and we saw the need and he was explaining his vision to me, I said, I'm one cog in that, but I will help you build that side of your business. I'll help you create the financial education program because I spent the last 7 years doing it for nonprofits,
right.
People coming out of jail, military personnel. I was like, I've got NFL friends. Why don't we just put the pieces together?
Yeah.
And we did.
So I want to talk to you about working with athletes, specifically NFL guys, because obviously that's my background. To me, what's crazy is we talk about Caleb Thornhill. Caleb was the first person to get me a credit card. Mind you, I was 22 years old before I had ever gotten a credit card, learned about credit or anything. A lot of it has to do with your upbringing, just where you come from and how things are kind of not talked about in your community versus, you know, people that do talk about it at the dinner table and things like that.
Me.
Exactly. So with me, I learned financial literacy late. You know, like I said, I got a credit card at 22 years old. I wouldn't say it was probably around 26, 27 where I really began to dive into finances and learning different, you know, things about finances. Yeah. I feel like within the NFL, though, there is this, I don't want to call it a problem, but it almost is a problem just because of the way that the money is set up. And it's changing now because guys are getting into the league with money given the NIL thing. But
different space.
Yeah, it's a whole different space. But I want to talk about, like, there was a stat that said a lot of NFL guys end up going broke within 3 years of leaving football.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that and how you feel about that and why you think it's maybe a football thing as opposed to, you know, other sports.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that go broke. So the stat says, and I know the one you're referring to because it was ESPN's 30 for 30 broke that came out with it
Yeah.
in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And it brought a lot of attention to what was happening in the space. And I think it's starting to change. I do feel it's starting to change, but I will caveat that with I still get a lot of phone calls of I can't pay my agent. I don't have enough money. I'm in the off season. I can't pay my rent this month. I don't get paid for 3 more months. What do I do? So I still get those questions. And my answer is this. When you go from nothing or not seeing money like this, or even $20,000 a year to making our rookie salary this year is $840,000 if they play all 18 games.
That's ridiculous.
840,000, excuse me. If they play all 17 games and dress for bye week, right? They're
That's
active on bye week.
ridiculous.
It's 18 weeks.
It's gone up so much.
It's even when I started,
Yeah.
it was under 300.
Yeah.
It's just the CBA is wild.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But you know what? This is all public. You can
Yeah.
see it all.
For sure.
Also dangerous.
Yeah.
That's also a dangerous component. But with the salary being what it is and how it's paid and the expectations that come along with it, that's where the core problem is. I don't think it's that we're paying them too much because I don't.
Yeah.
This is entertainment. Entertainment is the highest grossing industry in the world.
Right.
If you're in it and you can make money at it, make your bread.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what's around
Okay.
football that I think is an issue. And I think it stems from 3 core things. I think it stems from lack of financial education for not only the athlete, but the parents. Because if you can't handle $1,000, I'm a firm believer you can't handle 10,000 or $1 million.
That's real.
Because if you can't handle 1,000, how are you going to mishandle 10,
Yeah.
100?
For sure.
Right? So financial literacy is one core pillar of the problem itself. Lifestyle and social media has completely changed. That's core pillar number 2 for me that I'm battling with these guys.
Okay.
When you look at someone's social, let's use any celebrity, for example. Let's use Floyd Mayweather today because I love me some Floyd and I love boxing.
Yeah, me too.
If you look at what Floyd does, he's a very flashy man.
Yeah.
Rightly so, but it's part of his persona. He's also one of the highest paid athletes of all time. But do you think everything that he's showing on the internet, he actually owns?
That's where it gets misconstrued.
You got it. Perception versus reality. This is where lifestyle perception becomes a reality for these guys and it makes them go broke. What I mean by that is they see the AMG Mercedes $300,000 G-Wagon. Oh, I want that. Well, the guy that you saw rolling in it on his social media, he's got a car deal and all he's paying for is the taxes on the lease.
Yeah, facts.
Right? He's not paying a $6,000 a month car payment for 5 years to own that vehicle.
Yeah.
So social media has created this monster of consumerism, which we're a consumer-driven economy. But these guys are expected to have the chain, the car, the women, the house, the boat.
It's
right?
crazy.
I mean, tell me your experience. What did you experience?
It's wild because like, you know, I'm seeing guys now, they got chains on that.
You see the draft?
Yeah. They got chains on that guys had to play 7-8 years to get.
Contract 2, baby.
Yeah. Exactly. And they have it before they're even drafted.
NIL.
And so I know with my experience, I got drafted to the Dolphins. So imagine, played here at Arizona State, but the parking lot at the Miami Dolphins facility was ridiculous.
It still is. I pull
It
in every
still
time.
is.
I'm like, good Lord.
100%. So you imagine going in as a rookie and you see the Wraiths pulling up, you see the Range Rovers, the Lambos, the Ferraris, and the first thing that goes into your mind is, I need to get that.
Right.
Or I need to buy something flashy so that I can feel a part of what's going on. So that pressure automatically sinks in, not even talking about on the field pressure. You're talking about just looking the part, you know? Lifestyle.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Every time I drive into an NFL facility, which right now, I'm at a different facility every 2 days for 8 weeks straight.
The World Tour.
The World Tour. 13 teams, 8 weeks. Let's go. It's funny that the parking lot has 3, I think it has 3 or 4 different components, maybe 4 at this point. you've got your rookies, and you know they're rookies because they all drive the same car.
Yeah.
You know what car that is?
What is it?
The Challenger.
Okay. Yeah. that sounds about right.
It's the Challenger or the Charger.
Yeah.
That's your rookie car, right? So you know that's like your first year, second years, or third year guys that haven't upgraded the car yet.
That's funny as hell.
But then you got your O line and your D line guys, and they're big guys, right? They're my big guys. Some love me by big guys, but big guys don't fit in cars.
Right.
So you know that they either got an SUV or a big truck.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So that I know where my line guys are because you know
the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you've got your specialty guys, your corners and your wide receivers and your running backs and those guys. I know when they are on first contract versus second contract based on the car they're driving.
Yeah.
And then there is always, and this is my favorite category in the lot. There's always that one beater. And it's that one guy who refuses to buy a new car because he will not pay for it unless he pays it in cash.
Shout out to him though.
And I know exactly who they are in every single locker room.
Yeah.
And we're going to shout out my guy Aziz. I'll share.
Yeah.
Love him to pieces. He was my rookie in San Francisco in 2019.
Okay.
His story stuck with me.
He's a hell of a player too.
Hell of a human.
Yeah.
Like, forget player for a second. This guy, talk about an underdog, homeless in high school, living out of a car with his family. Right. And his story is very public.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is he doesn't use it, if that makes sense. So when he got into the league, he was undrafted, right? Made the 53. He literally did everything that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And his rookie year, he tells me, we sat down and did a budget every month together. He says, Hill, I'm not going to buy a car. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to ride a bike. He rode a bike every week for the first year of his rookie contract.
Yeah.
And when he got done, because he played all 18 games, he got a player performance bonus. For those who know what a player performance bonus is, you know.
It's fat. It was probably fat.
It was fat.
Yeah.
And he said, he goes, I'm going to buy a car. And I was like, well, what are you going to get? And he goes, I'm going to get a Jeep, but I'm going to do it like, I'm going to get a 2 years off lease. Like you said, he did everything right.
Yeah.
Everything right. Because he said, I don't know how long this is going to last. And I don't want my lifestyle to get so out of control
that you can't keep up with it,
that I can't pull it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love this kid. I love this kid. I love that guy because he's been as authentic as they come from day one and he's never changed.
Yeah.
And his story stuck with me because that's how I felt when we had no money. I was like, what can I cut out? And the hard part with athletes, talking about lifestyle, talking about social media being that beast, once you have it, pulling it back.
Oh man, downsizing, downgrading, it's almost a hit to your soul and who you are as a person, especially given these football players who are glorified gladiators in today's world. They
are gladiators.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like this, it's this feeling that, you know, I know a lot of guys struggle with. I've always been someone that has lived within my means. Like, I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. Yeah. And while that may be a humbling feeling, being around certain people that can just do whatever they want, like, it allows me to freely be myself. Like, you see me and I'm the same person everywhere I go. Like, I don't have to act as if I'm, you know, I got this or I don't have that. I think that allows you to just play the game freely without having that pressure of like, I bought 2 or 3 cars last week and I need to play well this whole season. I have to make all 18 games. If I'm not active all 18, now I'm in trouble. Yeah. And people don't realize they don't get paid unless they play. Like, NFL players, very few have guaranteed contracts. There are a few. You can see which ones they are. It's unfortunately very public. Yeah. Which is the third pillar of the problem in the NFL. I was going to ask you, what is the third pillar? It's the publicity, the actual public information on these guys. Yeah. So we've got our financial literacy gap issue. We've got our social media lifestyle issue, but then we also have this publicity entertainer side, which unlike most movie stars, even, you don't know how much they make on a movie until it's done. Yeah. You don't know how much really is in their bank account. With athletes, you know, signing bonus is public. Yeah. Their salary is public. Yeah. If they have incentives in their contract, it's on Sport Track. 100%. The only thing that's not is their player performance bonus. That's the only thing that's somewhat secret, but because it ends up coming out at some point. Because you know how much per snap? It's like what, $100 to $500 a snap. You played X amount of snaps in a year. You're going to be entitled to somewhere close to a number in that ballpark. It's not hard to do the math. For sure. So it's so public that the financial literacy gap plus the lifestyle issue leads to publicity causing a complete downfall in these men. And
again, like you said, you knew your lifestyle, but if
Yeah.
you've never been accustomed to how to set boundaries for yourself
Yeah.
and you've never had to, and you can't say no to the people around you because you come from a place where you didn't have everything you wanted,
Yeah.
you lose everything quickly because none of those three things are actually the reality of how you should be living.
100%. I would say mine wasn't even a healthy boundary. Mine was like out of fear.
Oh, you had a fear mentality.
Yeah, I was
scarcity.
Yeah,
You were scarcity.
I was the scarcity mindset.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not doing this because I don't want to end up in this position where I can't, purchase what I want, or I can't afford a house, things like that. Like,
And you were drafted.
I was drafted. I was drafted in the 4th round.
Yeah.
So, and I was gonna say, like, the money being made public
Ugh.
allows for, it's this weird dynamic of people that are close to you, like whether it's family or close friends, because now they get to see what you're getting for your signing bonus. And it creates this weird dynamic of like,
You got it.
you
so
got
I want
it.
it.
I want it. You owe me,
Yeah.
Yep. Like,
Or can you just spot me?
Can
I'll
you
get you
spot
back
me?
at some point.
oh, I got this business idea.
Ooh, that's my
You're
favorite.
the only one. You're the only one that can fund it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what would you say to guys that, are gonna? I mean, there's guys that are signing their contracts right now for their rookie year, and during the season, once they start making a couple plays, there's gonna be more cousins that pop out.
Oh, 100%.
They're gonna be the old best friends from high school.
The girlfriend from high school gonna show up.
Yeah, popping
Mhm.
out, and I think it wears on some guys mentally. What would you say from a standpoint of creating healthy boundaries for an athlete when it comes to money?
First, you got to know what your numbers are. And this is where a lot of guys get lost. They know what they're making, but after taxes, they're not accounting for what they're actually going to see.
Man,
Right?
yeah,
So one of the big things, we just did this with the Cardinals 4 hours ago. We broke down a game check.
yeah,
And one of the ways that I do it is I actually bring money. I bring prop money. No, I do not. I had one of the guys. Is that real?
yeah.
I'm not rolling around with 30 racks in my backpack.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not Floyd. I'm not
Hey,
Floyd.
All right.
But we had our fake money, and I take them through a game check breakdown.
yeah,
It's different than NIL.
yeah,
NIL is completely different than NFL money because NIL, you're self-employed, and NFL, you're an employee of the company you play for, which
Mhm.
means you don't get to deduct anything from taxes. You
yeah,
don't get to write things off. You work
Yeah.
for the team,
yeah.
just like any of us who are employed normally.
Right.
And so I took them through state tax, Medicare, Social Security, and pay where you play.
Yeah.
Right. And I also had to take them through. So it was Medicare, social, federal, and state. And
Yeah.
what people don't realize is they pay where they play.
Yeah.
So even though guys are drafted here to Arizona where it's 2.5% state tax, when they go play in the Bay or in
Oh, my
LA,
goodness.
13.3.
That check gets eaten up so
Gone.
fast.
$3,000.
Yeah.
It's like it's a $3,000 difference this year.
Yeah.
And so we're going through this, and one of the things that I like to do to illustrate what you're not going to see is I take that pile of money and I throw it behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And the groan that goes across the room is just palatable. And everyone in the room, you feel not the fear, but just the angst
Yeah.
of like, I made $23,000 on a game check, and that's half a game check. So they're paid over 36 weeks now.
Yeah.
There's a whole system to the NFL.
For sure.
Right. And so people always ask me, break the whole thing down. I was like, I need an hour.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a
and
lot.
I stay up to date on it because of
That's
what I
you
work on.
do.
This is what I do.
Yeah.
So we take this half of the game check, which is 23,333. And by the end of it, they have maybe 10 grand left.
Yeah.
And I said, if you don't know how to use that,
Yeah.
that's what you have to work with. Not 840. It's more like 465 at the
Yeah.
end of the season. And then you've got to pay all the things that you have to pay for because you're an NFL athlete. It's not cheap to be an NFL athlete.
No, it's not.
People don't know about the fines, the fees,
Oh
the
my
agent
goodness.
dues,
The
the NFLPA dues.
Your agent's gonna hit you over the head.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't come out of your game checks.
Yeah.
So you have to save for it. So it's a cost to being an NFL player. There's a cost to doing business when you're an NFL player. People don't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah.
And so being able to show them that and say, get your numbers under control. And when a guy finally goes, okay, I have X amount a month, it's got to last me 12 months, but I only get paid for 7.
Yeah.
I got to make it last 12. And I have got everyone asking me for money.
Yeah.
I've got everyone telling me they have a good idea. How do I say no? I say, well, first thing you're going to ask them is, do they have a budget?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you did a budget, right? They're like, yeah, absolutely. I said, make your family do a budget.
Yeah.
And then you're going to teach them what I taught you.
Yeah.
You're going to teach them how to make the numbers work for them. And if you do want to help them, if you choose to help a family member, great.
Yeah.
But understand if your pot's gone, everybody suffers.
For sure.
So your pot has to be good for life.
Yeah.
It can't be good for 3 years because you can't just give people fishes and hope that they learn how to fish. No, you got to teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
And so you're going to teach them how to do a budget. You're going to teach them how to control their spending because you have to do the same thing. Hold them to that standard.
Yep.
And now what we're doing is we're providing financial literacy without realizing it's happening. I'm the pebble that's dropped into the pond. They're my ripples. All my players are my ripples, and they impact so much more than I ever can touch because of the megaphone that's associated with them.
Yeah.
And so if they can teach the people around them, give me your budget. And if I know you need help and I can help you, I will.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your numbers right, you can't ask me to give you my money because my numbers got to be right.
100%.
That stops about 98% of the problems.
There. How does it feel to be the vessel that, you know, allows those guys to avoid the hard situations? How does it feel given your background and what you've gone through when it came to finances? Tell me how that feels for you?
It's a 50-50 battle.
Why is that?
Because I understand wanting to help my family more than anything on the planet.
Yeah.
I do.
It's hard when you can't help your family.
Right. Because I've been in a place where I was watching my family lose it all.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because my family was making bad decisions. It was because we were put in a position that we just couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so when I should say, when families come forward and say, I need help, I never want a guy to just flat turn them down. But I want to make sure that when they're helping them, they're doing it in a way that propels that person forward and they can use those skills for life.
Instead of enabling them.
Right. Because the moment you enable, you now become the piggy bank.
Yeah.
You become the pot.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I had a player, I think it was like in 2020. He said, my brother needs me to give him $150,000 to start a barbershop. And I said, okay. I said, can we bump the brakes for just a second?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, what's up? And I said, okay, walk me through this. He's like, well, he needs $150,000 to put a lease down on the barbershop and to hire 4 people. I said, cool, let's backtrack it a bit. I said, has he ever worked in a barbershop? He goes, well, no. I said, does he have a license? He said, well, no. I said, then why are we buying a barbershop?
Yeah.
And he said, I didn't think about that. I said, here's what we're going to do. Pedal it back. How much does it cost to go to barber school?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't know. I said, call me when you know. Calls me back. He says, it's going to be X amount of money in this area to go to barber school. I said, great. Why don't you pay for your brother to go to barber school?
Facts.
Get the education.
Yeah.
Now he has a skill set.
Yeah.
Now he has a skill set.
Yeah.
Brother finished barber school, calls me. He's like, we're ready to open a shop. I said, no, you're not. I said, new plan. He needs to go apprentice under someone for a year.
Yeah.
He needs to learn how a shop runs. I said, do you have a business degree? He said, no. I said, does your brother have a business degree? No. I said, do you want to burn money? Because I was like, you can just put it on the table. I can light it on fire for you.
For sure.
Or
Yeah.
we can go get the experience.
Yeah.
He said, okay, bet. So sent his brother off, got him a great shop he apprenticed at. Killer shop. Comes out about a year and a half later and is like, I don't want to buy my own shop. I want to go 50-50 with the owner of this shop because he's going to sell in 10 years. I said, great, even better. So the two of them bought ownership stake in this shop. They know how it runs. They already have a book of business and there were 8 other chairs.
Okay.
They now have an operating business that they both understand how to run. They didn't have to start anything from scratch, which that was a blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
But he has the skill set that if he ever wanted to sell that shop, he can go anywhere in the country and open a barbershop now. Because not only does he cut hair, but he knows how to run a barbershop.
Right.
And I asked my guy, I said, I realize it took longer, but was the end goal worth it? He said, yeah, we're going to make millions versus burning $150,000 on something we probably wouldn't have been able to turn around because we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
I said, great. Took a little longer to get you there, but it's reframing the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to throw money at something to make the problem go away for a minute because the problem's going to get way worse while you're waiting for it to go away. Let's figure out what the root of the problem is and solve for how we make that problem go away and improve the person's lives, depending on who we're talking about.
For sure.
Moving forward.
Yeah, it's all about building that foundation first for those people instead of just, like you said, you send 150,000, you don't know where that 150,000 is going to go to because it's not going straight to the shop right then and there. So yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly as far as building the foundation. What do you think is like in your guys that are successful financially, what would you say is like the trait that you notice within them? You know, because we all have these things that make us good at, whether it's sports or talking or negotiating. Yeah. What's something that you've noticed that makes people great with their money?
Discipline. Not motivation, discipline. Guys that can keep their goal front and center, whatever that is. It could be something really small. It could be something really big. Case in point, my goal for the last 15 years has been to retire my dad.
Okay.
Because he literally hit reset on his bank accounts when my mom passed away. There was nothing left. Like 55-year-old man, think $0. And he had to start over. The only thing we had was a house.
Wow.
So at 55, if you have to start reinvesting, we would know with time value of money, it's going to be really hard for him to retire.
Yeah.
So my brother and I, our goal was we've got to make it so dad's not working until he's 80.
100%.
This is where when I say I struggle with, do you help your family or not? I know what it looks like and feels like, but you can restructure it so you're helping your family and not hurting yourself. That's what we did.
Okay. We
made a plan to retire him. And this was, my mom passed away in 2013, right? I have to remember now. Yeah, 2013, April 24th, 2013. And from that point forward, my brother and I put all our effort into doing whatever we could to help our dad. Now, my dad does not like to take money from us, as you can imagine. That is he's a very traditional man.
For sure.
But that didn't mean we weren't going to help in some capacity. And as of this year, probably in the next 2 months, he's going to retire officially.
Wow. Congratulations on that. That's big.
It's huge at 67.
How does that feel?
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the fact that that's real for him is it's bigger than I can ever, like it brings tears to my eyes. It makes me so happy because he can now go do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And it took choices, my brother and I saying, we're not going to do that, that, or that. Or my dad saying, I'm not going to do that, that, or that. Because my end goal is more important. The guys that are most successful in the league are the ones that have a goal and they don't deviate. They know exactly what they're going to do and they know how they're going to get there. And they just push forward.
Yeah.
And the guys that are unsure of what they want or how they want to live because they just don't know, they flounder a little bit more.
Yeah.
So finding purpose in whatever it is you want to do, those guys are the most successful, even if they're undrafted on P squad.
Right.
I've seen those guys become millionaires.
Yeah.
Like quickly become millionaires.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, since we're even touching on the P squad subject, I want to put you on the spot. Say we got a guy that's on practice squad. And for the people that are going to be hearing this, like, you know, I think everyone thinks that if you're on an NFL roster, you're making NFL roster money.
Not a chance.
You know, but these practice squad guys
making a good living.
Yeah, they're making a good living. I spent years on practice squad though, and I think that to the outside perception, people think that you have this influx of money coming in. While you're making good money compared to, you know, the rest of, you know, your peers or whatever the case may be that aren't in the NFL.
Yeah. You're
not in a position where you can just freely live the way you want.
Oh no, you're budgeting hard.
You're budgeting hard. And that's it's top of the line as opposed to like, it's like budget and then your play comes next. Like, because a lot of these guys are living in a hotel, they have responsibilities that they have to pay for. It just makes it really tough. What would you say for a practice squad guy to be successful financially? What kind of advice would you give to him and tell him?
Yeah. So the P squad guys are always my favorite because they have to work the hardest and they always do.
Yeah.
And when I say work the hardest, I'm talking financially. We're not talking about the field. I don't deal with the field. I deal with all the field.
For sure.
I would say in order to be financially secure as a P squad guy, you've got to save 90% of your after-tax money or damn near close to it.
That's tough.
It's tough because you have only 18 weeks of pay.
Yeah.
You get paid for 4 months and you have 8 months where you're not getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to manage that.
Yeah.
Now you do get paid for preseason. Right. You do get paid for lifts, but it's like
not,
a couple $100 a day.
Yeah, it's nothing that can change your situation.
You could go work at Amazon or UPS and make double what you make
100%
during OTAs.
100%.
So people don't realize that while guys are in the facility right now, they're not making anything to be there. I mean, they're actually making less a day. They'd be making more grub hubbing than they would going to the facility and working, but they're doing it because it gets you to the next game.
Absolutely.
So for the P squad guys, it's being able in season to focus on getting activated or elevated, either one.
Yeah.
And then saving as much as humanly possible because there's certain fees you don't have to pay when you're on P squad.
Yeah.
And then taking advantage of everything the NFL and the PA have to offer in the offseason. Every externship, which is part of being in. There's some benefits to being in the NFL that other people don't have.
For sure.
But you pay for them.
Yeah.
P Squad guys too. They pay their dues.
Yeah.
Which you know.
Yep.
But I would always say my most successful P Squad guys, they will hit 5, 6, 7 externships in the off season.
Yeah.
And when you go and do an externship, everything's paid for.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about anything.
True.
And you're gaining a skill or a certificate or something. Same with PAC. PAC is one of the things I would encourage those guys to go do, because PAC is going to give you life skills around building a business, real estate, or anything to do with investing that you might want to do or put your hands in.
Yeah.
It teaches you.
Yeah.
If you want to go into broadcasting.
I wish PAC was around when I was getting done playing. I got to see both sides, I got to see both sides of like the salaries in terms of like, I spent a couple years on P Squad and then I spent majority active. So like I got to see both sides, and I wish PAC was around just from a standpoint of like, I didn't take advantage of the externships, or the internships outside of the game. It was just something that like, I feel like I had to work twice as hard after I got done playing to get into that space.
Yeah.
But I would encourage guys that are in that practice squad, like maximize on having the NFL behind you. That way you can go set yourself up for that next play. Whether the game continues on for you or not, you may be in a situation where you set yourself up for the next play and you don't have to depend on a practice squad check anymore. Like a practice squad check is a good way to make a living if that's what your situation is, but take advantage of the things that they have for you, because I was somebody that didn't. But hey, it worked out. We're good. We figured it out through a lot of work and a lot of internal work as well, which is big from that standpoint.
Well, think about the network too. Think about the network of the NFL. So when I say externships or internships, this goes for anyone in the league or anyone at the NBA level. 'Cause working with the NBA, I'm starting to see that as well.
Yeah.
You never know who's in the room with you.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right. So when you enter a room for anything that you're doing, whether it's at a corporation or you're at a networking event of some kind, or you go to an economic forum, you never know who's in that room.
Yeah.
Work the room.
Yeah.
And I will say the best business deals I've ever done have not come from me picking up the phone and making a call or kind of just like lollygagging. It's literally getting into a room with people and talking to them. The reason Caleb Thornhill even called me was because I had coffee with a builder in Oregon who went to college with Spencer Paysinger and was like,
that's wild.
A custom home builder in Oregon is really good friends with Spencer Paysinger.
That's
Spencer knew about what I was doing with like helping athletes, because I was talking to Brian, his friend, about it. And Brian's like, we got to connect you with Spencer. The Oregon, he was in Oregon. He went to Oregon, University of Oregon. He played there. Brian played with Spencer there. And then those two were like, we know what you did at Oregon State. Spencer's like, Caleb, you got to talk to this girl.
Yeah.
I wasn't even talking about being in the NFL.
Wow.
I was just saying, I want to help athletes. He's like, I know what you can do. Let me make a call. This is someone I've been working with for 6 years in custom construction on the mortgage side.
Yeah.
You never know, if you get in a room, no matter what you take advantage of, who you are going to land in front of and what opportunity it's going to create.
No, you ain't lying about that. That's something that I've noticed since being in the space of networking and talking more. Obviously, the podcast has brought forth a ton of different people within my network, but I think a lot of things, or a lot of times when you're on practice squad, and I dealt with this, is there's like this weight over you that you feel like because you're on practice squad, you can't walk into a room and network the same because maybe someone doesn't know your name.
Fair. They don't have to know your name.
They don't have to know your name.
No, they don't need to know your name.
But you do have to be able to talk about yourself in a way that is enticing. You have to know what you stand for. You have to have a personality outside of your sport, in my opinion.
Yes.
What would you say to that guy as far as like networking? What kind of advice would you give him and how to sell himself to someone?
When you walk on the field, do you ever question your ability? No.
Nah.
Never.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if you're P squad or not. You knew what that rep was going to look like, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
You knew when you took that rep, you were going to give it everything you had.
Yeah.
And you were going to be the best. I've never met an NFL player who doesn't have that mentality, because they wouldn't be in the NFL without it.
Yeah.
take that mental toughness that you have there.
It's there for sure.
It's always there.
Yeah.
You guys walk into a room and command it.
Yeah.
Every guy.
Yeah.
Whether it's the subtle, reserved, super chilled, laid back, vibey guy,
Yeah.
or the overly charismatic walks in and you know immediately, oh, there's my guy. It doesn't matter what your personality looks like, how it comes forward. It's the confidence with which you walk into the room to meet those people in their space. So each guy that walks into my room, today I had 14 new rookies. As they were walking in, I was watching body language. I was watching where they sat. I was watching how they addressed me.
And you can tell.
I know immediately who my charismatic, chatty guys are going to be.
Yeah.
I know immediately which ones are reserved and unsure of me because they've never met me before. And I'm here to talk to them about money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of barriers I have to get through.
Yeah, for sure.
But I can tell each of them, I can tell with how they acted within an hour, which one of them would be able to walk into a room. Doesn't matter if they played one snap in the NFL or none, they would be able to go get a job. And the ones that might need a little more coaching. And the coaching is simple. Take the mentality you have on the field, figure out what your value prop is. So if you're a chatty person, you might be great at sales.
Yeah.
Translate that into going to talk to people. If you're more reserved, a little bit more laid back.
Which I would consider myself as the reserved, laid back.
Doesn't mean you can't go into a room and have a nice one-on-one conversation with somebody and have it go somewhere.
Oh, 100%.
Because I mean, you and I met in Arizona, but we were in passing because there were so many people there.
100%.
And in Miami, we got to chop it up with 2 other people at breakfast for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Game changer.
For sure.
Now I know you. I know what you're about, what you stand for. I'm like, oh, that guy, I want to work with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's that confidence.
Yeah.
But it took me time to get there, though.
It does. It's practice. So you can't expect to walk onto an NFL field if you've never played football, right? You've got, how many years did it take you to get there?
A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Think about the shift in the mindset there. You didn't just pick up the football and be like, yeah, I'm going to be a number 1 draft pick wide receiver this year.
For sure.
No, it was years of practice. So you have to go into rooms and you have to get uncomfortable and you have to live in that discomfort. Yeah. Sit in it for a while. As Julius Thomas would say, just sit in it. Yeah. Just sit in it. I'm like, oh, I don't like sitting in it.
Shout out to Julius Thomas, by the way, too.
JT.
He's been great. I got a chance to talk to him a couple weeks ago just on some just catching up type of things. He's dope.
He is my soulmate in terms of our brains are twins. We read the same books. Yeah. Well, when I was in Miami, we would go grab dinner after rookie development or whatever. And we'd close down the restaurant. We'd be there for 5 or 6 hours talking about philosophy, psychology, money, all the things.
Are you big on philosophy?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. And so we talk about, and psychology, because he's getting his PhD. I mean, he's a genius. Yeah. And his whiteboard. You heard about his whiteboard?
No, I haven't.
Oh, the whiteboard.
Okay.
The whiteboard is cool.
Yeah.
When he left the league, he's amazing. His mental toughness is something I've never seen before in anyone I've ever worked with. He walked away from a multi-million-dollar contract because he's like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And he locked himself. I won't say locked himself, but he put himself in a position to allow his brain to go explore the world. And what I mean by that is he had a whiteboard and a set of books, and he would read and he would take notes. And what he was doing was he was absorbing culture and knowledge on all sorts of topics. And he did this for a year. He'd spend his mornings doing that, and then he'd go and do what he needed to do for school and everything. Yeah. And then we would sit down and talk through it. And I realized in that moment, I said, you have a really unique skill set. Yeah. You need to teach people how you do this. He said, I just have a craving to learn. Yeah. All he wants to do is learn. And I said, how do we get guys so excited about learning that they want to learn how to be in the room, that they want to go work for somebody, or that they want to start something of their own? And he said, he basically said, we have to change their psychology in order to do that. And that's where I think the big issue is. He said, how do you get the confidence? We have to train elite members of a very small organization, the NFL, how to not be elite in something else and work their way back up to being elite. Right. They have to change their psychology. Yeah. They have to be okay with not being the best in the room.
For sure.
That's so hard.
And I would say within that is being authentic to who you are. Yes. Like understanding, for me, one of the big things, I was nervous about the way that I spoke.
Really?
Yeah. Now we're podcasting, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
but look at, here we go. You are a walking testament.
I put myself in a position where I was like, I felt like I lacked the skill of holding conversations when I got out the NFL. Oh. And that was this is something that has allowed me to sharpen that skill. So now when I go speak to people, whether it's a one-on-one setting or whatever, I don't even think about what I'm saying anymore. It's just like I have the utmost confidence, but like you said, it came with reps
There it
of
is.
me getting uncomfortable to go and do it. The fact that I can sit and talk to Chip,
Yeah, Chip's great.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's a billionaire.
to have him on the podcast and just sit and talk to him.
It's just and he's an amazing energy.
Amazing energy.
Such a cool, unique guy.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Two different backgrounds, two different, obviously he has a mentality piece to it, but like a lot of guys aren't able to do that. And I feel like you should be able to, like you have that skill. You just have to have reps at it in order to get there.
Well, the elite mentality translates to everything else if trained. And that's it.
Yeah.
It comes down to just training it. And that's why I say externships, go work for somebody for free if you can for 3 months.
Get out your comfort zone.
And learn something new.
Yeah.
Nobody ever did anything great by sitting in a room and not learning.
Yeah.
No one goes out there and says, I'm an expert without doing the reps.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of our NFLers get stuck in this, I am an NFL player. It's who I am.
Myself included. Don't drag me. But yeah. That's how I was.
It's not who you are, though. And I get to lovingly big sis say, this is what you did.
Yeah.
It's not who you are.
Yeah.
It's the job you performed.
Mm-hmm.
Very glamorous job. A lot of eyeballs on you.
Yeah.
But it's not who you are. And I think a lot of guys have a hard time separating who they are from what they do.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the problems. That's where we get the lifestyle creep. And that's where we get the family issues. And it's not because these guys aren't smart.
Right.
You try memorizing an NFL playbook. Have you seen? I mean, you did it.
Of course I've seen it. Yeah.
I walk in, I'm like, I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I read all the time. There is no way you're going to get me to memorize 400 plays. And then they change them every week.
They change them every week. Yeah.
You cannot tell me that NFL players are not smart because they are. They are just not given all the information that they need in order to be successful because they have been pushed along. And NIL's doing this even more, which is my only beef with NIL is you can't keep pushing these guys through and expect them to be successful humans if you never give them life skills.
Yeah, for sure.
And you put them in a bubble, and if they ask for something, you just do it. You don't make them do it. Case in point, I was in the Miami Dolphins facility. It was a few years ago, a couple years ago now. It was Miami. I was like, it was Cleveland. No, it's Miami.
Yeah.
And we had a guy who came in on waivers, or came in off way. I don't know what he was doing. I just know he had literally got in the building, and he looks at the director of player engagement there and says, yo, is there a laundromat? And I stopped.
Oh, no.
I said, do you have a phone? He pulls out two. And I said, Google it. And the director just starts laughing. And I said, I don't mean to be, it's not disrespect. It's just, it's common sense.
Yeah.
You are an adult man.
Yeah.
You are a man.
Yeah.
Figure it out. What are we doing?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I thought it'd be easier. I said, do you think he knows the address offhand?
Right.
For a laundromat. He's like, well, I didn't think about it. I said, so you're going to ask him, make him pull it up for you, and then share it to your phone so you can click a button?
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
No.
Nah.
We're adults.
There's got to be some ownership within yourself to figure some things out.
And I realize that it's really not his fault.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the system in which if you are that elite and you're that good at something, people will do whatever they need to do to get you to that level because the amount of money you can make. Yeah. Again, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't always agree with it.
Right.
Because I want these guys whose careers end between 25 and 30. Yeah. They got 50, 60, 70 years of life left to live. Yeah. What are you going to do with that if you don't give them any tools?
No, for sure. That's real right there. I want to run through a couple of questions that I got for you.
Oh boy.
So tell me, you can just answer these however you want. What's the biggest financial myth that holds people back?
You can't invest unless you have a certain amount of money. I don't agree with that. You can start investing with $100.
If someone wants to invest $100.
Mm-hmm. I'm not an advisor, so caveating this.
Caveating this. But because no gatekeeping, though. No gatekeeping, though.
No. I cannot say that this is going to make you money. So let me caveat with you could lose everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Drop it in the S&P 500 and let it roar.
Mm-hmm.
Drop it in an ETF. Let it roar. Don't touch it. Just put it in there. Don't look at it for 20 years. See what happens.
Okay. I like that.
Investing is a long game. It's not a short game. Yeah. It's all about the long haul. So take that money. That's your can't touch this shit account for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I literally make my players name that account. You cannot touch this shit. That's the nickname on their banking because I don't want you touching it.
Yeah.
That's not money for you to spend. That's money for your future self.
Okay.
Even if it's 40, you're 40 and you need it,
Yeah.
or you're 80 and you need it.
Mhm.
That's your future self money.
It'll
That's
be there.
protecting your legacy.
Yeah.
That's your don't touch the shit account.
Okay.
The rest of it, we'll play with it. We'll figure out what's going
Yeah.
on.
So get you a don't touch this shit account.
Don't touch the shit account.
Okay. I like that. What's a financial habit that can change someone's trajectory?
Budgeting.
Budgeting?
I know it sucks. Everyone's like, God, why does everyone say that? Here's the thing. I don't believe in the traditional budgeting methods. I think you just need to figure out where your money is going, what you're spending, and then plan accordingly. Whatever that looks like for you. If it's a spreadsheet, if it's a piece of paper, if it's an app like Rocket Money, know where your money is going. It will change how you spend it and how you use it.
Okay. That's good advice. What's the best advice you can give someone who's in debt and how to get out of it?
That's a hard one. There's two methods, debt avalanche and debt snowball. If you're in debt, go back to your budget, figure out how much you have left over every month, and you need to tackle either your highest interest debt or your lowest debt amount. And that's what you just pay it every month, even if it's an extra $5. You start tackling those debts, and there's an order to it. So you need to research debt avalanche or debt snowball method. I actually have videos on YouTube about it that are 5 minutes long. Go look them up. It will literally show you how to get out of debt, and it will calculate how long it will take you. There's ways to do it.
Okay.
There's other options, but start there.
Okay. That's good advice. Those are the three questions that I wanted to ask you about money. I hope that whoever's hearing this, it can help them. I appreciate you coming by. This has been great. Like I said, I'm glad that we got a chance to meet here, and then obviously, get into conversation with him while we were at Miami. That's been awesome. And obviously, I know you're on the world tour, but you blessed us with your presence here. So I appreciate you so much. Where can athletes find you? Where can people find you if they're looking for someone to help guide them with their finances?
Financialfootwork.com, YouTube. Every one of our usernames is Financial Footwork. So you can find us there. We've got video tutorials, tons of free resources. I believe in trying to not gatekeep.
Yeah.
I love to give free stuff.
No gatekeeping.
No, we don't
here.
gatekeep here.
Yeah.
And we have a couple programs that are for sale that are really inexpensive to help not only college athletes, but pro athletes, and then everyday people like me that just had a normal job and need a little boost. So it's all at Financial Footwork.
Sounds good. I appreciate you stopping by. It means a lot. I appreciate you guys listening to this episode of For the Underdogs podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe for sure, and I'll see you guys soon.